Matt Scalici here with John Talty. It's a big day here in Alabama as Tua Tagovailoa has announced his intentions to enter into the NFL draft. So John, let's break down this decision a little bit and kind of what we've been hearing as reporters leading up to this decision. I mean, I don't think the decision for Tua to leave is all that surprising to most people, but I guess in the context of some of the things we were hearing and some of the things that were being reported, it did feel like for a little while there was a pretty good chance of him coming back.
No, absolutely, yeah. If you look at I think we were even having this conversation in the office earlier, at the start of the year, the full expectation was Tua would leave at the end of the year.
Right.
He'd probably be a top 3 or so pick. But in the last couple of weeks, I think that there was a lot of informed talk around the program that he was seriously considering coming back. I think you saw that in his body language today, the way he talked about it. You could tell he clearly wrestled with this decision. He had to talk to a lot of different people. And I think one of the things that kind of pushed him over the line in terms of leaving was that visit to a New York doctor, kind of getting as much of an A-OK as he could, that things were progressing nicely, that made him feel comfortable, okay, it's time to go to the NFL. But there was a lot of talk about him coming back. I think, that domino tweet, I think maybe implies a little bit too that, somebody big was coming back.
They'd probably like to have that one back.
Yeah, a lot of people interpreted that as a Tua thing, and I think that at that time, there were some people around the program that thought that at that moment, Tua was going to come back.
Right. So spinning this thing forward, though, now that Tua is moving on, we go into a quarterback battle for the offseason for Alabama, something that's always an event here in the state of Alabama, a quarterback battle in Tuscaloosa. So obviously Mac Jones, the returning starter coming out of the bowl game, will be a prime candidate for this job. Bryce Young, the incoming freshman, a 5-star guy, a guy that a lot of people have compared to Tua in terms of his skill set. He'll obviously be a part of it. There's 2 other backups already on the team. How do you see this thing going into the spring in terms of how open the competition is and how intense you're expecting it to be?
Yeah, it's going to be really fascinating to see exactly what happens, because I do think that Mac Jones is clearly the presumed favorite at this point. I think he's heading into spring with some positive momentum. The way that he played in the Iron Bowl, even if those two pick sixes still played very well, and I think he played very well against Michigan. So you would have to assume he's the number one guy heading into spring. But I mean, Bryce Young has a lot of hype around him. I know friend of the program, Mark Jennings, is a big fan of him, along with a lot of the different recruiting services. They feel very highly about this guy. And he's actually entering into, coming to Alabama with more hype than Tua was. So that's pretty significant. So I think that there's a lot of interest around him. And then what can Talia do? He's had to kind of be in his brother's shadow at Alabama, but there is still people who believe highly in his talent, and kind of can he push Mac and this new highly regarded guy coming in. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, it's been a couple years since we've really had a full QB battle. I mean, Tua Jalen was something, but people kind of assumed Tua was going to win. This one feels a little more open, even if Mac is kind of the guy leading the pack right now.
And I think that's sort of part of Tua's legacy to Alabama. He's really made it, or at least contributed to making Alabama kind of a destination for elite quarterbacks in a way that it maybe hasn't been in the past before. So, there have been quarterback battles, high-profile ones at Alabama, but this year, you've got a returning starter with a ton of experience, but you've got a 5-star coming in that a lot of people legitimately believe could come in and win the job right away.
Yeah, our colleague Michael Casagrande, I think, had a great way of putting it in his story today, that Tua really took them out of the Murderball era that people kind of thought about with Alabama's offense. They just beat you down, they run a lot, QB manager type. And Tua really changed that. It showed the way that Alabama's offense could be different, and I think that does appeal a lot to recruits. I think 5 years ago, Bryce Young does not come to Alabama, and Tua is a big reason why it's changed. I mean, having Sark there, I think, is a big deal, and it's just you can accomplish different things offensively at Alabama that people didn't think was possible 5-6 years ago when you had the A.J. McCarrons of the world at QB.
All right, well, tons of coverage of Tua's decision and what it means for Alabama going forward over at AL.com. You can find it all there.
Andrews Sports Medicine, aggressively pursuing victory over injury. Call 205-939-3699.